Here, on the vast, ancient plateau of the Deccan, a new power began to stir. Today is the 9th of November, 2025, and as we look back across the centuries, we see the seeds of an empire being sown. Around the 6th century CE, amidst a landscape of scattered kingdoms, a dynasty known as the Chalukyas emerged. Their story begins in the heart of what is now Karnataka. This was their arena. From this rugged, sun-drenched land, they would grow to shape the destiny of southern India for generations. Wide views of Badami cliffs and Agastya Lake, close-up of cave temples on the hillside. Their influence would not be fleeting. It would be carved into the very rock of the subcontinent, a testament to their strength and vision. Their ascent was not accidental. It was a story of strategy. It was a story of survival. The early Chalukyas established their first capital at a place of extraordinary natural beauty and strategic importance, Badami. The settlement was cradled by sheer red sandstone cliffs, offering a natural fortress against their rivals. The first great ruler to bear the Chalukya name was Pulakeshin I. He performed ancient rituals to declare his sovereignty, a clear signal that a new authority had arrived. Under his guidance, and that of his successors, a small chiefdom began to transform into a formidable kingdom, its reach extending across the plateau like the roots of a great banyan tree. The world they entered was one of constant flux. The great Gupta Empire to the north had faded, leaving a vacuum of power. This was a time for ambitious leaders and skilled warriors. The Chalukyas had both. They built armies and mastered the art of diplomacy, forging alliances where they could and waging war where they must. Their success was built upon their ability to command the loyalty of local chieftains and to harness the resources of the fertile river valleys that cut through the Deccan. It was here, in this cradle of civilization, that they laid the foundations for a cultural and political legacy that would endure for centuries. The Chalukyas did not just conquer territory, they began to define it. Their inscriptions, painstakingly etched into stone and copper plates, tell us of their earliest triumphs and their administrative systems. They speak of a society taking shape, of land grants given to learned Brahmins, and of the construction of the first simple shrines to their gods. The story of the Chalukyas is, from its very beginning, a story of how people leave their mark upon the land, creating a heritage that outlasts the fleeting lives of kings and the clamor of battle. This is where it all started. Every great dynasty has its defining figure, a leader whose name echoes through history. For the Chalukyas, that figure was Pulakeshin II. He ascended the throne in the early 7th century, a time of great challenge and opportunity. His reign marks the zenith of Chalukya power. He was a master of the battlefield, a strategist of immense skill. His military campaigns were relentless, expanding the empire to its greatest extent. He subdued neighboring kingdoms, the coasts of the west, the fertile lands of the east, creating a vast dominion under his singular command. His most celebrated achievement, however, was not one of conquest, but of defense. From the north, Harsha of Kanauj marched south, aiming to unite all of India. The two great armies met on the banks of the Narmada River. A clash of titans, a pivotal moment for the subcontinent. Here, Pulakeshin II held his ground. He halted Harsha's advance, drawing a boundary that kept the Deccan distinct for centuries. This victory made him the supreme lord of the south. Pulakeshin's fame traveled far. We know this from foreign accounts. The Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang visited his court and wrote of the king's power and loyal subjects. Even the Shah of Persia, Khosrow II, exchanged ambassadors with the Chalukya court, shown in an Ajanta painting. The empire was a recognized power on the world stage. Pulakeshin's reign was not just about war or diplomacy. It was a time of cultural confidence. Wealth from conquests and thriving trade networks funded a flourishing of the arts. Under his patronage, spectacular temples at Badami and Aihole were built. He knew power was not only the sword, but also architecture and enduring art. His era was a golden age, when Chalukya identity was forged in victory and stone. Their confidence became culture, their culture became legacy. The world took note, and the Chalukyas spoke in the universal language of patronage and prestige. Artisans gave stone the flexibility of imagination. The empire breathed through its art. In every chisel mark you can still feel the pulse of a kingdom certain of itself. This was the Chalukyas at their brightest, a constellation of art and authority. Like a great river, the Chalukya dynasty eventually split, forming distinct branches that flowed in different directions. The main line, the Badami Chalukyas, were the progenitors, the original source. Their rule, centered at Badami, defined the first great phase of the empire. But as influence grew, governing a vast territory brought new challenges. Family disputes and distant provinces led to new related ruling houses. These were extensions of the same family tree, each adapting locally. One major offshoot, the Eastern Chalukyas. They set up a kingdom in Vengi, coastal Andhra Pradesh, founded by Pulakeshin II's brother, Vishnuvardhana. A governorship turned into a sovereign kingdom. For over 4 centuries they ruled the fertile delta, patronizing Telugu language and culture while keeping ancestral ties. Centuries later, the Chalukya name revived. The Western Chalukyas, the later Chalukyas, emerged in the late 10th century, reclaiming much of the old heartland, with their capital at Kalyani. They began a second great era of temple building and culture, claimed Pulakeshin II's legacy, and fought to restore ancestral glory. The 3 branches, though rivals, show the full Chalukya phenomenon: Badami Chalukyas, Eastern Chalukyas, Western Chalukyas. They fought wars, competed for prestige, and vied for control of the Deccan, yet shared a common origin and a shared architectural tradition. From early experiments at Aihole to the mature Western Chalukya complexes, a continuous thread of innovation. If one wishes to truly understand the Chalukyas, one must go to the places they transformed. It is here, in the silent language of stone, that their spirit endures. The Chalukyas were not just rulers, they were master builders. They pioneered a new style of temple architecture, one that would influence builders for 1,000 years. Their primary canvas was the sandstone of the Deccan Plateau, Badami, Aihole, Patadakal. They conducted a remarkable conversation with the rock itself, carving caves from cliffs, constructing temples block by block, with astonishing precision and artistry. Aihole is often called the cradle of Indian temple architecture, a landscape dotted with over 100 temples, almost a laboratory for architects and sculptors. You can see the evolution of the Hindu temple, from flat-roofed early structures to more complex designs with rising towers. They explored different floor plans, column designs, roof structures. Aihole wrote the grammar of sacred architecture, one stone at a time. At Badami, 4 magnificent cave temples carved from a colossal cliff, each cave dedicated to a different deity, each a marvel of sculpture and engineering. Workers chiseled away thousands of tons of rock, revealing grand halls with ornate pillars and life-sized deities. The sculptures are dynamic, figures emerging from stone, telling stories in motion. The culmination is Patadakal, a UNESCO World Heritage Site on the Malaprabha. Virupaksha Temple leads a harmonious blend of Nagara and Dravida styles. The temples are a triumphant statement of synthesis and genius. Beyond grand courts and sacred precincts, the Chalukya Empire was sustained by the rhythm of daily life. The foundation of its prosperity was the land itself. The Deccan Plateau, with its fertile black soil, Krishna River, Tungabhadra River, was a rich agricultural heartland. Farmers cultivated rice, millets, cotton. Their labor-fed cities supplied the armies and fueled a thriving textile industry. The state invested in irrigation systems to ensure bountiful harvests. Strategically positioned, the Chalukya realm connected western ports with the markets of the east. Goods flowed constantly. Spices, hardwoods, precious gems moved along land routes and rivers, the empire's natural highways. Guilds of merchants, Shrinis, organized commerce and amassed influence. Chalukya coins stamped with the boar have been found far and wide. Life in villages was organized around community. Councils of elders settled disputes, managed communal lands, and oversaw temples and water tanks. Kings managed defense and central taxation, but day-to-day administration rested with local bodies, a decentralized system that provided stability and resilience. Religion permeated daily life. Predominantly, Shaiva and Vaishnava rulers tolerated other faiths. Jainism and Buddhism flourished with royal patronage. No empire, however powerful, lasts forever. The story of the Chalukyas is also a story of conflict and eventual decline. War was constant. Their most persistent rivals were the Pallavas of Kanchipuram, a powerful dynasty to the south. For generations they struggled for the southern Deccan, capturing and losing territory in an endless cycle. Cities were sacked, including Badami and Kanchi, yet neither side could land a decisive blow. The rivalry drained both kingdoms and their coffers. The greatest threat came from within. The Rashtrakutas, once Chalukya feudatories, began to assert independence. Led by Dantidurga, they challenged authority, chipping away at the empire. In the mid-8th century, the Rashtrakutas defeated the last Badami Chalukya king, Kirtivarman II. The great empire collapsed. The Rashtrakutas seized the heartland and became the dominant power. For nearly 2 centuries, the Chalukya name receded. Yet decline was transformation. Administrative systems, artistic styles, and cultural innovations were absorbed, first by Rashtrakutas, later by the Western Chalukyas, building on foundations laid at Aihole and Patadakal. Today, as the sun sets over the Deccan Plateau, it casts long shadows across the Chalukya monuments. Their empire is gone, but their story is not lost. It is written in inscriptions and embodied in magnificent temples. The Chalukya era was a pivotal chapter in India's history. They were a bridge, absorbing influences from the north and south, synthesizing them into something uniquely their own. Their legacy shows how a regional kingdom can have nationwide impact. What, then, are the key lessons? First, political power and cultural expression move together. Wealth and stability under rulers like Pulakeshin I created extraordinary art. Temples were devotion and prestige, symbols of imperial success. Great art arises from confidence and prosperity. Second, synthesis and innovation. They did not copy, they experimented, combined styles, and created. Patadakal is a monument to cultural dialogue. Finally, legacy endures after empires fall, adopted and adapted by successors.